Welcome everybody back to another undisrupted podcast. I'm feeling very festive today, joined by my co-host, Mr. Adam. Adam, I had to have something. I knew you guys had some flair on, so I knew with the red glasses, I need to bring something shocking with this red Baby Yoda ugly sweater that I absolutely love, and I haven't taken off in 4 days. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing well. Trying to stay COVID-free in these streets, and it's getting harder and harder as we speak.
The numbers are going up. For those of you that are listening, this is now December. We're into this last part of our season 2 podcast, and yeah, COVID's still rising rapidly. Today's a big day. It's actually the day of the electors cast their votes. A lot of stuff happening in our country. But our opening debate has nothing to do with any of that. And this is all about, well, maybe it does actually have something to do with that. This is all about people who hate change. And specifically when it comes to our role as tech leaders, they hate change, but they really love it when we change something and it just doesn't work. For example, about 6-7 years ago, or 10 years ago now, maybe, yeah, I think we switched from what was called Novell GroupWise email to Gmail.
The Noid.
Yes. And man, if I didn't get called into an office so many times for my superintendent's like, I want to be able to search by the last name and I can't do that now. And I said, well, yeah, it's true. You just type it in a search. Let's get rid of it. And I'm like, oh. So this morning, I know Google went out, and so I saw some text messages going back and forth. Adam, do you ever experience this when like someone's like, hey, this is awful, and then you change it, and then something breaks, and they're like, see, we told you it was awful.
Well, it was one of those things prior to everything. I was trying to get everyone to move over to OneDrive. I'm like, okay, let's stop using your staff share. Let's do this whole OneDrive thing. Let's get things working where you can sign in anytime, anywhere. Well, Adam, why would I want to sign into my stuff when I'm at home? I don't want to do that. Okay, no problem. And then, of course, the world comes to an end, and we all must get everything remotely. And everybody wants VPN access. And so I was like, no VPN. No. You want to get your stuff, you don't have to come on site.
No VPN, 1 year. You're the VPN Nazi.
Yes, that's the thing. It's one of those things where change is, and I want a change to happen. With all this technology stuff, we wanted the change to happen, but I feel like it's like a monkey paw. We got our wish.
Comes with a cost.
But we got a pandemic to make it happen.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
the monkey
tech
paw.
Directors, stop wishing.
Hashtag monkey paw. I'm putting that in the notes. With that, let's bring in our guest. This is Felix Jacomino. He's the Director of Technology at St. Stephen's Episcopal Day School in Coconut Grove, lovely Miami, Florida there. Felix, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
What's your take on that? You ever have that experience that as your role as Director of Technology? You ever change something and then people freak out after you've done it?
First of all, I have to say you just blew me back. I don't know how long when you said Novell GroupWise. Wow.
We had that thing forever,
going
man.
Back. I just could picture the red N and the little globe and
Yes.
GroupWise, and oh man, yeah,
Like the Netscape logo. Yeah.
Exactly. That's like I'm mixing those two in my head right now. Of course, I think that's what our roles revolve around is change, obviously. But I love analogies, right? So when people have problems with stuff like that, I'll go way back technology. Like, oh, look at that. They just came out with a new air conditioner that could keep your room a lot cooler. Oh, can we get it? Well, no, it's newer, it's better. Why would we do that? Let's stick to what we've got, and I like making those kind of in your face sort of analogies to get the point across.
I think that's a good way to get people to kind of wake up to some of the change that's out there. And yes, when it's happening to people, they don't experience it, but then later they go, oh, I can never go back after you've switched them, right? That's the thing.
Right.
So,
right. And as the tech director, once you've done it enough times, that there's always that period of resistance, and you just kind of like let the people talk and then know that on the other end, hopefully, if things go well, everybody will be on board.
Yeah.
And I think one of the hardest things you run into with those changes in technology is dealing with because we know we're going to have those issues, and anyone who has experienced change, you're going to have issues. Whether you start talking about your change in marital status, you're getting married, there's a whole lot of change, and it's like, oh yeah, this is lovely, but it's like you snore. Not my wife, but other people's wives. Those are those things that you have to deal with change. But that's what we get as decorators, those people who are leading the change. We understand that there will be some growing pains. There's going to be some days where Google's not working, where Zoom's experiencing.
Does that happen?
Today. Yes.
Yes.
It had, so for people listening later on, yes, it happened today, and it was the sky was falling. Sky was falling.
For 22 minutes, the sky was falling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And going back to email, just one other thing that I remember is when we did do the switch from Exchange/Outlook to Gmail about 12 years ago, I had like 2 users who said, I saw that there's a way to keep using Outlook with Gmail. I said, you know what? I'm not going to tell you can't do that. I am going to tell you I'm not going to support you when it doesn't work.
yeah, that's
So, and they did it for a month.
total tech director line, by the way. I love it. I do it too. I was like, I mean, you're more than welcome to do it. We will not support you or spend any time or energy on it. But if you want to keep that printer of yours in the back, or that Raspberry iMac in the back of your room running that still works somehow, that's fine with me.
Sure.
So we always like to start.
Still run Oregon Trail on it.
We always like to ask a fun question to start too, just kind of an off the wall one. So Felix, I have to ask you this in all seriousness. What's it like having as a parent at your school? Are you allowed to share?
So her kids graduated last year, so she's no longer around.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I mean, actually the glimpses were just far and few in between. But you know, very supportive parents, both she and very supportive, very responsive. They do have, you know, help for the kids, because I mean, obviously with their schedules, right, they're all over the place. But you know, we have others as well that are kind of in the same field, whose dad is always touring and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's cool.
We had McConaughey.
Awesome.
We had McConaughey in our school for a couple of years, and that was fun
that's right.
here in Austin. And then Adam, who's the most famous person you have in your school?
I mean, present company. I mean, but
yeah, right. I was gonna say Adam. Yeah.
It may be Adam. Might be the number one answer there. Ding, ding, ding.
Let my kids tell it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you want to kick off the next? Yeah.
Yeah, with all the stuff we've had going on this year, you know, we joked about Google issues. I know we had Zoom issues, Microsoft, you name it. There's been all kind of crazy things that have happened this school year, and that's in with schools and even with people in the private sector. So can you tell me, you know, how has this year gone for you? And were any of those issues things that you kind of saw coming and made a plan to kind of, you know, get around, or you just kind of power through them?
So all things considered, I'm really glad to report it's been quite smooth. And I think the reason for that's been, I've been trying to get, so going back to my mention of Exchange and Outlook, and getting off of that, I wanted to get Gmail. Why? Because it's in the cloud, because it's out of my hands. I don't need to run the servers. I don't need to do it. So currently, as of right now, I have 0 servers running at our school. Everything's cloud-based. Wow. And the exception would be a NAS, right? So for somebody who doesn't know, a network is attached storage, right? So a little box, just because, and even then, now I have to consider, do I even need that anymore now that we're up to a gigabit speed? But yeah, you're gonna go faster, right, by having something like that internet. Other than that, everything is up on the cloud, and because of that, that's what's lends itself to just make this a pretty easy transition. The other thing that helps is I had gone to Securely for the iPads before all this happened. So a lot of stuff that I was putting into place by getting everything up in the cloud and remotely managed happened to just really work out for this. So kids are home, and 4th grade teachers say, could you please stack the states on all the 4th grade iPads? Boom, 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 done. So that's been very helpful.
And that's one of those things that I think a lot of us tech directors that were future thinking, or I'm not gonna say future thinking, just trying
future ready
to get stuff, future ready.
Ready.
I think you did there.
Most of the podcast.
To get things there.
That's a catchy phrase.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah. There should be an organization called, I mean, maybe a bunch of schools could get ready for the future.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it really put us in that position where, if you are, as you said, thinking about getting things onto the cloud, thinking about virtualization, maybe you didn't have all things in place, but those districts who are thinking along those lines were ready to kind of ease into that transition. And this year wasn't, throwing everything out the window because you hadn't figured it out. You already kind of had a system in place, whether you're doing, soft phones and all these other kind of things where you didn't necessarily have to be sitting in your office to be a working school system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know of schools that were using other third party, or sorry, not third party, but like other methods of video conferencing, right? It seems like so many people just settled on Zoom, but there was Google Meets, and then there's this one school up in Jacksonville was using Big Blue Button. Have you even heard of Big Blue Button?
Yeah, only once.
Oddly enough, yes, because it's
right. You haven't, exactly, and it functioned the way you think it might function. And that same school asked their teachers to upload all their instructional videos to their school server. Imagine that. So you've got teachers using everything from, their laptop camera to an iPhone 11 on high quality. So you have gigs and gigs that teachers are trying to get to the school's server. That's bad enough in itself. Now tell 1,200 students to access those files all at the same time. Needless to say, it was only a matter of time before YouTube and Zoom saved the day.
Yeah.
Why would we try? What? And then there's sorry, because another thought just came into my head is about how safe is it? Is it safe? And security. We need to have this. What do you think you can do at your school that's safer than what Google or Amazon Web Services or something like that has to offer? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the weakest link, right?
Yeah.
It's whether it's on your campus, whether it's up in Google's cloud, it's really up to you and how you implement all that.
Yes, and AWS, another sponsor of the show, and also I'll just drop that in there real quick. But yeah, I think the one-to-one was another one. We talk about the forward thinking, not just doing things in the cloud. And I feel like you were one of the first schools that I can remember. I mean, when we were doing our one-to-one at about the same time, I want to say 2010, 2011. Yep. I know one-to-one had been around for a while with the laptops in Maine, and they like to tell us about that every time they get a chance. But
you started with iPad 2?
Yeah, iPad 2. Remember with the camera? Yeah,
iPad 2 with the camera, right? It finally got a camera. Okay, now, yeah, that's when we started.
Yeah, and I think
and because we had so many schools wanting to visit an elementary school using iPads, it was having all those people visit us that kind of led to the birth of Miami Device. If the visiting schools were the mother, then iPad Palooza was the father, because it was really a combination of the inspiration of iPad Palooza, and I got to give props to Tony Vincent also for the mobile learning one that he was doing around that time. Mm-hmm. My experience going to those conferences, plus people visiting our schools, said, hey, we could kind of have people visit our schools, see what we're doing, and at the same time, make a conference out of it.
And that conference was
learning event
was a very beautiful, that was a beautiful child, that learning event. So that brings us to, speaking of conferences, so Adam and I had a pre-ISTE episode that was out a few episodes ago about the death of the conference or the rebirth or whatever you want to call it of the conference. Yeah. And now that ISTE's passed, Adam and I actually did a session together, and there's some good that came out of it. I thought there's some things that you probably tweak. What do you think? I mean, is a conference dead, Felix? Or, I mean, you as someone who's run an event for several years, I mean, what do you see as like the next iteration or the phoenix of the next conference rising from the ashes?
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot. Listen, I think there's a lot to be learned from what's happened, right? I know several people who signed up for ISTE and had planned to go, but they couldn't attend.
Right.
What's going on at my school right now, and I think maybe we were going to talk about this later, but I'll just jump into it now and give you a and faceted answer is we are hybrid for just the students that are remote. Well, obviously, that makes sense. So there's some students, I mean, we have students out in Mauritius. Do you know where Mauritius is? I honestly didn't know where Mauritius was.
Somewhere other than Miami.
Okay, so there's Africa, west of east of Africa is Madagascar, and east of that is Mauritius, and it's this big, but it's a beautiful island.
Wow.
And anyway, we have a student who, and it's like a ridiculous, and maybe 8 hour time difference. So we have a student 8 hours ahead, and we have a student in California, so that's a good 3 hours behind.
It's like tenant. I mean,
it's going everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I have no idea why I just said all that. We were talking about
Conferences and then
but
the hybrid and everything else.
With that.
Yeah.
Okay, hybrid. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, hybrid. That's the biggest challenge, and that's the challenge I'm seeing and hearing everywhere, right? I think if we took and asked teachers what's the most difficult part of this, is anybody who has to teach in person and have students zooming in at the same time, that I think takes the cake on most difficult. Obviously, everybody likes to be in person first and foremost. If you can't do that, then all remote is a second, but way down at the bottom is having to do that. And I've seen teachers, okay, with their laptops in one hand and coming up to the smart board and doing this and trying to get it right. And then of course, you wanna include the students. How do you show a video? Audio is another
Echo.
problem. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got echo. If you have students tuning in and feedback, it's a mess. And yes, yeah. Teachers are getting much better at it. They are way better today than they were at the beginning. And that's just where we are with the hybrid model. So going back to your question about conferences, there's something to be learned right there, right? And something that we might be touching on, but then again, suppose this vaccine is very successful, and by the time fall rolls around, we're all as back to normal as we'd like to be. Will we address these issues again?
Right.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And
I look at it that now that we've opened the Pandora's box of shutting things down and doing this whole virtual thing, it's on the table now. Anytime we have something, a flu outbreak that's
weather,
pretty bad, we're going to have some type of shutdown or virtual. Snow days are gone. I saw somebody posted on, I don't know what platform it was. It's like Google being out as the new snow day.
Nicholas Ferroni, right?
Yeah,
it's snow day, no Google.
I think it was him.
But that's where we are now. And you brought up a good point about the hybrid model, where teachers are, or whatever name we're going to make it up, where teachers teaching kids virtually and face to face. That's crazy. And I think a lot of that comes from the people who planned virtual learning aren't the people who understand how digital learning works. We were trying to put the traditional teaching into a digital box. Even this whole synchronous where everybody's getting on Zoom at the same time, you're saying with the time zone difference, it's crazy. Or in some cases where we have older siblings watching younger siblings because parents had to work. How can they be in their meeting at the same time when they got to watch their 5-year-old sister or brother and they're a 9th grader in high school? I mean, it's, right. Family structures. I don't think everyone really thought about all that, but it was comfortable. Is going back to our initial question about change. Yeah. It was very comfortable for a lot of people because it was, okay, 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock, they're going to be in school. I get it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And that raises up some equity questions too, that I know that Adam and I have asked a lot of folks on the show, just in terms of that. I mean, I know, so you've got kids in time zones in both different sides of the planet. I mean, how are you, I mean, obviously your school, you have access to some resources and those students do, but there's still some equity issues when it comes to that, right? Like, how do you tackle that?
So for the girl that's out in California, because since, our what's called morning meeting is when all 4 groups come together, because something I didn't say is that we split our grade, which we just went to a co-teaching model where we took all the grades and put it in one larger learning space. Okay. So up to 40 kids, or so 44 kids into one learning space with 3 teachers, new co-teaching model. We launched it last year, and all of a sudden, now we have to split up in that large cohort of 44 down to 9 to 10, 11, right? So now we've divided into 4. We only had 3 teachers, so now we're pulling special area teachers, okay, to do all this. Yeah, lots of fun. So how are we doing it? For the students out in California, they make sure that morning meeting is recorded, because you can't expect a 8-year-old, 9-year-old to log in at 4:30 in the morning for a morning meeting. But they can record it and watch it afterward. Of course, then they can't be live and give input, live input. And then the kid in Mauritius, it's like, good morning. It's like, oh, what are you having for breakfast? No, this is dinner, right? Because it's like so much
Nighttime.
later over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
What do they have for dinner in Mauritius, though? Now I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Lemur.
Oh.
I'd like to move it. I don't know, but
later.
I will send you some pictures of. Just Google Mauritius, and you'll see what
I did while you were talking.
So.
I already looked it up. I'm totally figuring out how to get there. It looks amazing. I had to get the spelling right.
Right. There you have it.
I like that idea, though.
I'm
chopping it up between, you have to kind of hybridize even the learning model of the in-person video versus the asynchronous video. So you give that. I like that as a change too.
Yep.
So let me
something else that's different this year is we always have a gala, right? Like a fundraiser thing, only for the parents. But this year, because we can't mingle, it's going to be a drive-in movie drive-in, and it's going to be family included. So that's kind of nice.
I do want to kind of follow up on that one a little bit, and I'm just going to throw this one out there to you. So, what's the pasta? I see the puzzle look there. Yeah. So what sticks after all this is done?
Nice.
So, we have all this going on, all the blended virtual, all the synchronous, asynchronous. What sticks when all this is done? Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Got him. You got him.
I mean, there's a lot. So let me not think of the classroom right now for a second. From an admin perspective, now there's like no excuse to not be in a meeting or be able to, I'm out, so I can't attend this meeting. Oh, yeah, you can. Here's the Zoom link. So that, I think, is going to stick. But now teachers are much better at the tools available to them, right? Where before it's like, Google Classroom, whatever. I could always do it this way because the students were always there. I think that's going to stick as well, just the digital resources. Students are absent, no more excuses. One thing we did have an issue with, or we're struggling with, is if a student's out because they say they're sick or whatever, do you allow them to come in remotely? Because we were very strict, like, listen, you have to choose remote or not and stick to it. None of this back and forth. Okay, first of all, it's not COVID friendly to do so. So choose one or the other. And then now we're getting students that are like, they've learned not to say, I didn't feel like coming in today, so I thought I'd remote, because they know that they won't be let in. But it's also to kind of keep things under control and not let parents, I think, have a newfound appreciation. So something that'll stick is parents' understanding of everything that goes into this, and accountability, especially for the older kids, on making sure that they show up and do the work. Because there's students that turn on the Zoom, and 2 seconds later they just kill their camera. Yep. They're never going to be seen again. And it's like, Felix, where are you? Felix, where are you? Felix, where are you? And nothing. You don't get anything from them. So the communication with the parents to get that done is something that is new, right? Mm-hmm. The parents always knew if the child was absent. We're elementary, right? So parents always knew if the child was absent. Now, although the student might be in front of the computer, now they're finding out that they were absent because of the lack of being engaged in the class.
It makes me think about all those times that kids were actually in class physically, but probably absent too, staring out the window or going somewhere. I mean, but we could see them physically. So therefore, in the state of Texas, we're going to count them as completely present in the learning of the day. But that's a whole nother podcast for another time. I do agree with you. Yeah, we pull back the curtain.
Especially when the kid's like this, he's like, like the teachers like talking about some horrible story that they're reading.
The history of the
the
massacre of
grandma
Mauritius.
just died. Right. Grandma just died, and the kid's going.
Yeah.
Right?
You
So
could tell. Yes. The Lemur
Glow.
massacre of Mauritius is never covered in class today. Yes. So we always like to kind of wrap up the show, and a lot of us have been we've all faced with a lot of different things this year. We've all had our different challenges that we've kind of gone through in terms of schools and school leaders. But we want to have our listeners out there get a little bit of encouragement of different things what's something you could share with them to help keep them undisrupted.
That's a good one. Okay. First of all,
one when Carl asks
you've
questions.
been through a lot. First of all, you've been through a lot, and you're still here. If you're listening to this podcast, it's because you're not a stinky educator. It's because you care. You care to learn more. You care to hear what others have to say. So you've done a lot of the right things. And if you rewind back to February and compare what you know now, at least from a technological perspective, I can't imagine anybody saying I know less or I know the same. Definitely you have grown, and hopefully this isn't going to last a lot longer. So I say, just keep doing what you're doing. Lift up those who are doing things to help. Okay. We know that we could all use positivity, okay, instead of anything more negative. I've always said whenever I do sessions on social media, but mostly on Twitter, it's like you don't find bad teachers on Twitter, right? You don't find teachers just sitting there complaining for the most part, right? You just find teachers who care, teachers who are there to uplift others and share ideas, and just that they're in it because they care. And they like to do it. So if you're not on Twitter, come on in. It's the water's nice.
Says the guy in Miami where if it's 60 degrees, it's a cold street.
Oh man, you should have seen. It got into the mid 60s the other day here.
What?
Oh yeah. We almost canceled school. This is not a joke. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at my girlfriend's, don't do that now. If you take a look at my girlfriend's Twitter, not Twitter, or Instagram, I don't know if she posted or not. She's was going to or already did. Is only in Miami do you get a dress down day because of the cold weather and have students show up like this and like this. So right, we got a big influx of students, by the way, from New York. Right, a lot of people moving out of New York. A lot of them landed here in Miami, Coconut Grove area, and so we got a lot of. And sure enough, dress down day, you could wear your jeans and jacket, and you had the kids showing up in shorts and t-shirts, and you had other kids basically in parkas. So now that's interesting to see. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on our podcast. And I do want to ask you this question. Where can people find you? I mean, plug yourself. They want to find out more about you. They want to follow your girlfriend and check out the pictures she's posting, not her pictures, but you know what I mean, on Instagram, where can we find you?
Right. So just my name, right? So just Google me, Felix Jacomino. My Twitter handle is at Felix Jacomino, and my, Instagram, I'm just Jacomino. So there's not too many of us, just me and my dad. So I'm just Google me. You'll find me.
Like Dan Levitar, you and Poppy.
Yes, that's a show. Get you and your dad on a show. That would be hilarious. All right. Well,
that might be interesting.
Thank you for joining us. And for our listeners out there, be sure to subscribe and give us a review. We'd appreciate it. We might even give you a shout out on a future show. Still waiting for a few of those. We got a few more reviews in there just recently when I checked. This has been the Undisrupted Podcast, brought to you by Future Ready Schools. He's Adam, and you can follow him at AskAdam3.
And he's Carl, and you can find him at Mr. Hooker. And remember, we are better together.
And we are better undisrupted. This podcast is made possible by the generous support of Amazon Web Services.